Hello, folks. I am back with the shooting review of my Walther PPQ 45 M2. My previous video, of course, was an impression, but this is my actual shooting review. The video is already up of me shooting the firearm. I will link it in a little bit after I record this. I'm going to tell you, I was really impressed with this firearm. Greatly impressed, but there is only one negative, and I will get into that. All right, let me just show clear, just so we're all on the same page that safety is first. And here you go. Nothing in the chamber. And here we go. All right, the PPQ 45, I actually wanted to have another striker firearm that is chambered in 45 ACP. And I said in my previous video that I don't think that the 45 ACP striker firearms do not get enough love. So this is my third striker firearm that has that 45 ACP cartridge. So with this, everything is very good and positive with this. The sights on here, what's interesting about the sights is that the sights were pretty much dead on. It was basically dead on. And just like the target picture, well, the target that was given by the inspector from Walther, I'm going to pull this up here. That guy that shot that firearm he was just dead on accurate. One flyer here. I don't know how many shots were here. I'm imagining about 1, 2, 3, maybe about 6 shots or 9 shots. But he was dead on, and I was trying to do the same thing, but I guess I'm not as accurate as that shooter is, but at the company. But as far as I see, that this firearm is very accurate, and it shot very accurate for me. Like the features I've mentioned before, I did put the bigger back strap on here, and I'm glad I did because it had a little more comfortable feel, but added to a little help for controlling this. Now, a lot of people have complained about the PPQ versions of firearms because they seem to have a high borax. Now, the high borax doesn't really bother me because of I've shot the SIGs P226s and 227s, so the high borax wasn't an issue with me with those particular firearms. But what it does have a issue with is when you do fire it, you'll have this flipping motion, and you got to try to control it, especially now that this is a 45 ACP, because you have to deal with the recoil. And I think if the one issue that could be corrected on this firearm is, like I said in the previous video, I do like how the finger grooves are. The finger grooves here give a nice little hump. It's not obtrusive like on the Glock Gen 4s, but it does give a good way where you can put your fingers in. The problem is the texture. This texture right here is not grippy enough. Though it looks good, it feels good in the hand initially, but when you start to shoot it, it becomes a different story, because this grip texture needs to be, let's say I would prefer like on, let's say, the 6-hour P226s and 227s, they have what you call the E2 grip, and that allows for a good purchase. They needed that type of texture on this particular firearm. So a lot of times when I was shooting the firearm, it would get a little flippy, and I pretty much had to put a death grip on it to at least do my follow-up shots, because when I did do my follow-up shots, my problem was because of that, I was causing two things. One was an improper grip, because the very most important thing that they tell you in any type of training is the importance of sight, alignment, and grip. And one of sight alignment, grip, and also trigger control. The most important of these is grip because grip is the first thing that you do. And if you don't have that grip like you want it, it's not going to be as controllable. So because the PPQ has the pistol, police pistol quick trigger in there, what would happen is, it has a pretty much a decent take up and a short reset. So what I normally do is on most of my striker fire firearms, I like to ride the trigger back till it resets, and sometimes I will ride that trigger in a slow fashion or just on initial shots. The problem is if you release the trigger slowly, because the trigger is so light, you're going to discharge another round, and when you discharge that other round, it's definitely going to be very, it will catch you off guard. So if you're riding that trigger short, riding that trigger close like I do, what's going to happen, that short reset is going to kick in, especially during the recoil when you're trying to ride it slow. And next thing you know, that second shot is going to startle you. And I've did it a couple times. So I've had to pretty much, I don't like to use my finger like this where I can slap the trigger. I'm not really like that. So what I do is I ride the trigger back a little faster instead of slower. So as I ride it back faster, I can get that second shot at a short reset quick with a little more control, but that doesn't help if the firearm is moving in your hand. So I had to put that death grip on to actually really get that trigger to work like I wanted to work. So that's part of the texturing issue. God forbid if I had water on my hands or let's say a bloody hand, this is going to move. There's no doubt about it. So what I did was I ordered some Talon Grips, and I've ordered the rubberized one, so I'm going to see how those feel once they get here. It's supposed to be about 10 days. So I will be taking this firearm out again prior to the Talon Grips arrival, and then when the Talon Grips get here, then I'm going to do it again and try to give you my opinion on what I feel with the Talon Grips versus that. Especially, a lot of firearms to me don't really need Talon Grips. It's just a personal preference, but in this case, this firearm needs a Talon Grip. There's no doubt about it. Uh, that is the only negative thing I have to say about this firearm. Like I said, the sights from the factory were dead on accurate, and I'm going to show you some targets. I showed you what the factory personnel has done with the targets, and I'm going to show you my targets. And my target is basically from 10 to, this first set is going to be roughly from 7 to get a feel for it to, I would say, 10 yards. And I was right here doing these were my first few shots around here. I surprised myself as I got right about here. I think it was about the third shot. That's when I would say, accidental shots came in. So then next thing you know, I had these shots that I inadvertently shot out here and shot out here. And that was, and as you see right here in the black. So with a little more of a tighter grip, I got to be able to stay in this particular area. And I was trying to, like I said, sight it in. At first I thought it would be like a 6 o'clock hole, but it's not. It is actually point of aim, and and I figured with the high borax it would be maybe a 6 o'clock hole, but it definitely was point of aim. This was another one that went awry. That was again, I had to change my grip and also change how I was shooting with the trigger. Now I'm shooting at a moderate pace, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm shooting at that particular pace. It's not like I shoot and then it's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It's not going to be. I'm trying to shoot this firearm at a faster pace. So 7 to 10 yards. This was pretty much okay. Now I'm going to show from, this is going to be 10 to roughly 12 or 13 yards. Again, I'm trying to keep that pace up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, I did that little bit of that trigger issue right here, trigger and grip issue. And I shot that one way off. And then again, I did that here. At distance, when I was sending it a little further back, around 12 yards, I didn't know if I had to sight it in at a either higher or lower, so that's why these shots are up higher. So right around here, this is where I want it to be. I wish it was a little tighter, but it is what it is. All in all, I enjoyed the firearm greatly, except for that, like I said, that one particular issue. Uh, I have no complaints about this firearm. As far as it, I'm just really surprised they didn't even tighten this or do something with this grip. I'm really surprised. Being that it's a 45, maybe they would have used a different pattern, because this pattern is almost, and this is my first Walther, so this pattern to me doesn't have as much as a grip as my HK VP9. The VP9's grip is pretty secured for me, and some people even complain about that. I have no issues with that, but this particular texture looks good, kind of feels good until you actually shoot it. Other than that, I'm going to say that with this firearm, it's a very good shooter. Just remember, if don't have a Talon grip on this, make sure you get a tight grip. You want to have that tight grip, because like I said, it's the most important thing. Have a tight grip, fire this, and you should be able to have this under control. It'll have some flipping, like I said, a little bit, but if once I get the grips on, I think I can alleviate that issue. So other than that, that's all I pretty much have. I will relink my shooting with this firearm. I'm very happy with this firearm, especially this being my first Walther. I'm glad I got it in the 45 ACP as opposed to a 9 millimeter. Okay, folks, with that, happy shooting, stay safe, #2A.